Thank you very much for inviting me. Sorry, it's been a little testy morning, so just totally threw me off after I was all set for this. But anyhow, very glad to be here, and thank you very much for inviting me. And thank you to all the FMCG groups that come together to invest in a project like this in the light of developing our country and making things work better, especially for what represents a large part of our population, which is our youthful population. My topic, Nigerian youths, reskilling for self and national development. That's my keynote topic this morning. So I'd like us to look at it from a realistic perspective in terms of where we are, where we need to be, and what is essential for national development. For a country to develop, in essence, it needs to pay attention to multiple areas of its economic value chain and also of its population. And looking at the demography of our own population, we realize that the productive age group is so large. We're talking of maybe about 65%. But that's a good thing when there is a national plan that seeks to equip, to empower, to educate in a relevant manner, and to strategically and deliberately prepare its population as a workforce to achieve its set goals. Now, if you look at our country, what are the fundamental things that are key for us? We must be able to feed our people because we have such a huge population, and God help us if we ever have a situation where we're unable to feed ourselves. And like we've had this year, when the whole world was locked in, and essentially you had to use what you had within your own territory. If for any reason our ability to feed ourselves was dependent on other countries, we would have had a major crisis. And we still had some challenges in some areas, but in some ways we need to give the current government some credit, because over the last few years there's been a lot of focus on agriculture, and a lot of young people have moved into agriculture, albeit there's a gap in terms of knowledge and skills required for what I will call agricultural revolution in itself. So we're not just talking about subsistence agriculture or farming, we're talking about commercial agriculture, but beyond that, we're talking about the value chain of agriculture, which I think is a more viable area in itself for a lot of educated young minds, thinking about different ways that you can solve the challenges that you see or the crises that you see within the agricultural landscape. I listened to a bit of what Mr. Taya was saying, and he was talking about the opportunity in crisis. And so when you see pictures of people in certain regions of the country having huge harvest of a certain product which they have no capacity to preserve, and therefore after that season is past they have a lot of wastage and all the effort is lost, then you realize that we're wasting so much resources. Now, that's an opportunity for our young people to look at where those gaps are, and for us as a country to plan, to educate deliberately, to empower our young people with the right skills and knowledge and education. You know, a situation where we have people going into university to study any course, not necessarily courses that are relevant to our national development plan or courses that are relevant to current economic needs, where institutions and industry are not speaking to one another, and therefore there is no synchronism between the two in order to ensure that the kind of manpower that the university is preparing right now is manpower that is relevant to the needs of industry. Yesterday, I was speaking in an entrepreneurship lecture to Obafemi Awolowo University community virtually, and one of the things I challenged the university about, even as I praised them for trying to educate every single graduate entrepreneurially, it's the fact that they need to look at the curriculum of what they're teaching and harmonize the education they're giving to the students with what industry requires, so that we're not scrambling looking for manpower for our businesses, because we have a lot of people with certificates, but we have people with certificates but no value they can add into the real sector. So agriculture is only one of it. In terms of the manufacturing sector, the skills that we need are so diverse. And whilst we might have people being trained in certain sections of certain areas of engineering and all of that, what we need is not necessarily even given through degree programs. We need to go back to the days where city and guilds and a lot of technical knowledge was trained through a skills program rather than just an academic program, and equip and train our people to have a mindset that is fundamentally entrepreneurial, which allows every person that goes into a workplace to be an entrepreneur, even if they do not go on to set up a business for themselves, but to have a mindset of business such that they look at their role or their role within an organization with the eyes of a business owner, and it improves their ability to create value for the organizations that they work in, and it also prepares them for the opportunity to step out on their own at any point where they see a segment of that value chain, whatever industry they're in, where they are able to create value in order to add to national development. We also need to get away from all of the heavy stuff like major industries or even agriculture to a lot of there are multiples of softer industries, but which are key industries for this time and in this season. Apart from that, you've got all the digital, which is still technologically related. But even that is not all about the technology itself. It's about learning certain skills that allows you to be a value addition within the technology industry itself. And also is about understanding business systems, understanding the value chain of business, understanding issues of business or issues relating to people where opportunities exist, and then harmonizing that knowledge with the technical knowledge of someone that has a technology knowledge, which you can combine together to create a solution. I'm in furniture manufacturing in my primary entrepreneurial life. If I want certain solutions for my industry using the digital platform or using any form of technology, I understand the business, but somebody else probably has the primary skill of deploying all of the digital and technological options available to help me bring together my thoughts and my thinking within my industry in a way that I'm able to deliver additional value to the economy of the nation using my understanding and their skills. And that is key and is really important. I mean, and if I go back into my industry again as well, when we were going to set up one of our factories, a factory which is in joint venture with the largest French manufacturer of office, it's amazing. I mean, it was amazing to see that all of the people who work extensively in the factory in the south of France, none of them went to any university. They're highly skilled, highly trained individuals who are able to walk through different processes to deliver creative solutions for the industry, to innovate new designs, to use welding skills, to use upholstery skills, to use various skills of imagination to bring them together to create solutions that are technologically driven in themselves, because seating is serious engineering, and if you don't get the engineering of it right, you will not have an economic seating system. Yet, the guys who have to create this solution are not university graduates. They're trained in their own of their, but they're able to work together to create solutions. And when I took ordinary Nigerians who had school SAT failure and had worked as skilled people in my factory for a while, sent them to France for a few months to be trained in the way to look and to look at the production process, and also to learn the skills of being able to produce those same products in Nigeria. I mean, the French guys told me that it would take 9 months for people to be able to get to the point where they're able to deliver the kind of value that is required in terms of the quality and the warranties required for the product. But I had absolute confidence in the ability of Nigerians to learn very quickly when you expose them and you teach them the right things. And it didn't matter that these were not graduates of any sort. They were largely O-level graduates, or those that even failed their O-levels, but they had skills training over time by working in the factory and all of that. And within 3 months, they had finished what was supposedly a syllabus that would take them about 9 months to learn. And for the past 16, 17 years, we've had those guys working in our factory, training other people to add to them, and they have continued to sustain our ability to deliver and to produce world quality products out of the same factory without that education. So what does that tell us? We need to first decide what kind of skills we need for what kind of national developmental plan we have. We must identify all the areas of gaps, and we need to then deliberately and strategically educate and equip our people for the skills that are required for the developmental plan that we have. We also must look at the fact that we already have a lot of graduates out of school already, but who are irrelevant to the manpower needs of our current industries. And it therefore becomes important that we retrain them in unique ways without undermining their sense of self-worth and self-confidence, but give them what they need in order to make them relevant to our national development. I'll give you 2 examples. There were 2 projects that I developed under After School Graduate Development Center, an agency which I set up about 17 years ago. But when Governor Tunde Fashola was governor of Lagos State, we helped them to develop certain solutions to find ways to be able to accommodate those that were already out of school but were irrelevant in terms of the certification that they had. So we decided on 2 critical areas. The first one for us was in education. Nationally, as at this moment, we still have a high shortage of teachers in our schools. And it takes a bit of time to train the right kind of teachers. But one of the things that we thought through was about having a conversion project. And with our conversion project, we realized that there were many graduates of single honors degrees, especially in science. And the schools in Lagos State were failing, they were performing woefully, especially in science. So we made a case to the state that, look, if you take these single honors science graduates, they probably understand the subject matter more than a B.Ed education in one of those science areas. A BSc chemistry has a full-rounded knowledge of chemistry, more than a bachelor's in education in chemistry. But what the BSc chemistry guy does not have is understanding of teaching methodology and how to deliver the knowledge that he has in a format that he can educate another person. So we asked the state that, look, in a conversion program, let's teach these BSc single honors guys, let's teach them teaching methodology and convert them to teachers for you in the science areas. The governor caught on very quickly, and they organized a 10-week teaching methodology program. They asked those that were interested in education to apply. We had massive application of people for the roles, and they were able to shortlist about 588 people into the 10 weeks program. And by the time they were done, they graduated 587 teachers and deployed them into senior secondary schools teaching sciences. Now, the amazing thing was, in 1 year of these guys working with the WAEC classes in the secondary schools in Lagos, their performance, their results moved from 7% to about 47% positive performance, which was amazing. And of course, the state went ahead, ran another one thereafter, and took in about 1,200 teachers through the program. We then went ahead and introduced the same conversion program into healthcare. And in the healthcare program, what we did was to find single honors biological science graduates. And they put them through a 4-month training program in order for them to be health support workers. And as health support workers, they were deployed across all the health centers across the state to be those that were educating people. I'm sorry, do we have a problem? In preventive solutions to across the state. And that was a very successful program. And what was the most interesting thing about the health program? A large number of people that were in that program, by the time their 1 year, it was like a volunteer scheme, even though the state was paying them something. By the end of the 1 year volunteer period that they had after their skills training, a number of them went back to school to train as nurses and to train in various areas of the medical field that there were gaps and there were needs. Because that program in itself helps them to see where they could be relevant and where they could apply their foundational science knowledge to be relevant to the development of the country. So the responsibility lies first with our policy making, people who make our policies. 2, it lies with our educational programs, which we need to pay attention to. 3, it lies with the individuals and their ability to see how they can retrain themselves in order to fit into the actual areas of need. And lastly, as industries, we ourselves can play a major role in this, because we can invest with certain kinds of institutions to take a lot of young people off their redundancy mode into specific training, or to work with universities, certain departments, or the university as a whole, to develop programs that are relevant to our needs, and therefore create for ourselves a pipeline of feeding our industries with the relevant and right manpower, and ultimately helping to solve what is a national crisis in terms of youth unemployment, but also turning able-bodied, non-productive young people as at today into highly productive individuals that will continue to add value to our country. So my challenge is we all have a role in this. We have a lot to give. Nigerians are quick learners. When we put the right programs together and make the right investments, they will respond to it. A lot of these young people are totally overwhelmed right now and in despair as to what to do. And the resources and the opportunities are not necessarily there, but we must find ways to create and to support all of these developments which are necessary for our country, and ultimately for every one empowered individual who becomes economically viable. We as industry players benefit because then we increase the pool of those who have disposable income to buy our products. So there's enlightened self-interest in doing what you're doing today and all the other things that you still need to do or can do in order for us to add value to our national development. Thank you very much.